jury found the defendant not guilty.
Refusing a breath test. I did a short video on this a little while ago, and one of the comments was very insightful. The individual noted that if you refuse a breath test, won't police just go get a warrant for a blood draw? This doesn't actually play into your decision. If you're at the point that it's in your legal best interest to refuse a blood test, don't worry about whether they can go get a blood draw or a warrant. And this is for two primary reasons. They may not do it. I've represented hundreds of people on DUIs, and every time a person refuses doesn't automatically result in law enforcement going and getting that warrant. They could be busy. It could be a long line to get warrants. They could have more paperwork they have to process. They could low prioritize your case and not go get the blood draw. They simply don't have to. It doesn't always happen. The second reason's a bit more nuanced and a bit more complex, but it's important to understand how a breath test works versus how a blood test works. For a blood draw, they're going to take several hours to get there. If you blow for a breathalyzer, you're typically going to be allowed a 20-minute review period where they try to make sure you don't eat anything, don't burp, don't throw up, any of these kind of issues that can mess with the reading from a breath test. Alternatively, if they refuse the breath test, they then have to go get a warrant. They have to take you to a hospital. They have to get a nurse who's available to draw your blood, and they actually have to draw it. This can take several hours. And here, to demonstrate, I'd like to point out how they work and how this is different. So right now, I have a blood alcohol level of 0.0. I've had absolutely nothing to drink. If I was to go and take this shot right now, my blood alcohol would remain 0.0. If I was to, one after the other, right now, take all 4 of these, my blood alcohol would still be 0.0. What's going to begin to occur is after I drink all 4 of these drinks, my body's going to begin absorbing the alcohol, and slowly my blood alcohol is going to go up. Depending on how much I weigh, and how much I've eaten, and how quickly I take the drinks, and are they shots or beers, that blood alcohol will go up quickly or slowly. When you're talking about a blood draw that's 3-4 hours after driving, they're not going to get the right number. What the state's going to do is they're going to try to reverse extrapolate. They're going to say, well, his blood alcohol is this high when we did the draw. It must have been going down constantly. However, it's not just a declining curve. It's a bell curve. And because the length of time is so great, there's no science to estimating how much alcohol was in your system 3 hours earlier, 4 hours earlier. The breathalyzer is much closer in time to your actual driving and much more accurate when determining how much was in your system at the time you were driving. So if I took all of these drinks right now, in 20 minutes, I might not be legally intoxicated. An hour from now, I might have reached a level of intoxication that would be inappropriate for me to drive. And 3 hours from now, it would be reducing again. And as long as you have that curve and a long enough time frame, you can attack the blood alcohol levels in a blood draw much more easily than you can attack the results of a breath test. As an experienced criminal defense attorney, I would prefer every time to be fighting against a blood draw than a breath test. So when you're deciding whether or not to refuse the breathalyzer, remember, even if they get a warrant, you're better off with a blood draw than with a result from your breath. Follow if you have any more questions about criminal defense in that.